Nobody breaks out of the Ironhold.
Keep your head
That
down,
is what they
kid.
call it on the
Follow the
tabletop.
line.
The Ironhold.
Is there
A
any way
maximum
out?
security compound
Only
built
if you
from
want
the
to end up
bones
in
of
a
dead
jar.
machines, discarded computer servers stacked like prison walls, scrap metal welded into watchtowers, razor wire strung so tight across the yard it hums in the cold garage air like a warning nobody asked for. It sits on a rusted metal workbench in the back of an abandoned garage, and it was designed for one single purpose: to hold one man. To keep him locked inside until there was nothing left worth keeping. His name is Jax. He stands 2 inches tall. He wears a faded leather vest with a patch on the back that means brotherhood to every man in his club and means a threat to every badge in this county. He has been inside the Ironhold for 3 months. 3 months of fluorescent light humming overhead. 3 months of cold concrete and silence so thick you could press your hand against it. 3 months of listening to engines he cannot ride and roads he cannot see. The sheriff who put him here thought that was the end of the story. The sheriff was wrong. Because the Iron Outlaws do not leave their president behind. Not for 3 months. Not for 3 years. Not for anything on this earth or the next. And tonight, on this 1-meter tabletop inside an abandoned garage that smells like motor oil and old steel, everything those men have built across 90 days of planning is about to come alive. Over the next few minutes, you're going to watch the most complex, most dangerous, most precisely engineered prison break ever attempted at miniature scale. Every patrol route has been memorized. Every camera angle has been studied. Every second of the escape window has been carved out and measured against a stopwatch. But here is the thing about plans. You can prepare for everything except the moment the plan meets the real world. And those two things almost never agree peacefully. If one tire slips, if one fuse blows, if one brother hesitates for even half a heartbeat in the wrong place, the Iron Outlaws lose their president. Not for 3 months. Forever. So before we talk about the escape, we have to talk about the ground. Because you need to understand what these men are walking into. The Ironhold sits dead center on the workbench like an old wound that never healed. 6 miniature sheriff cruisers run a continuous rotation on the lower plastic perimeter, bumper-to-bumper timing. No gaps, no overlap, no blind spots left uncovered. The sniper towers are built from salvaged camera lenses mounted on steel rod frames, and they overlook every inch of the yard from 4 elevated positions. Cut across the open ground without cover, and you are seen before you take your second step. The yard itself is bare concrete block, no cover, no shadow, no mercy. And at the center of all of it sits the cell block, surrounded by 2 inner chain-link fences and a motion sensor grid wired directly into a backup power system. Kill the main power and the backups trip in under 3 seconds. 3 seconds of darkness. That is not enough time for anything. Unless you have spent 90 days making it enough. The Iron Outlaws mapped this compound the way surgeons study a body before they open it. The vice president spent 3 weeks alone just tracking the patrol rotations, sitting still in the dark garage with a notepad and a flashlight, counting seconds between cruiser passes until he could recite the timing in his sleep. 2 scouts volunteered for the most dangerous assignment on the table, crawling through open ground with no backup, no lights, no margin, because that is the kind of men this club produces. Men who volunteer for the hard thing, men who do not wait to be asked twice. Phase 1 requires total darkness. Phase 2 requires absolute speed. Phase 3 requires surviving something that would destroy anything less than what these men have built. It is 02:00 hours. The digital clock on the garage wall ticks. The sound is enormous in the silence, each tick landing like a small verdict. On the lower tier of the tabletop, the 2 scouts from the Iron Outlaws cut their headlights and go dark. Their engines drop to a whisper, custom-tuned down to a low, rhythmic growl that barely clears the hum of the garage itself. To anyone watching from a distance, they are not there. They are part of the dark. They are part of the workbench. They begin to move. Their route takes them along the outer edge of a discarded human car tire that someone left leaning against the far leg of the workbench years ago. To them, it is not trash. It is a mountain of rubber, a landmark in a world assembled from forgotten things, and it gives them just enough cover to push another 30 inches toward the target without being swept by the patrol lights. The lead scout does not breathe loudly. He does not let his engine cough. He holds every variable in his body under control, the way you only can when you have done something dangerous enough times that the fear becomes useful instead of paralyzing. The target is a thick copper grounding wire. It snakes up from the base of the workbench and feeds the entire prison lighting system. The spotlights, the motion sensor grid, the yard floods, all of it. Every light the sheriff is counting on runs through this one wire. And if the scouts can sever it cleanly, the entire compound goes dark for exactly 45 seconds before the backup generator completes its boot cycle and the lights come screaming back online. 45 seconds. That is the entire window. That is every second the Iron Outlaws have to breach the fence, cross the yard, breach the cell block, pull Jax out of his cage, and reach the exit. 45 seconds that the scouts have to earn first by crawling through open ground past a rotating patrol that never stops and never makes a mistake. The white and black cruiser sweeps its headlights across the plastic pavement in its standard arc, slow and mechanical and relentless, and the beam passes over the scouts at a distance so close the lead scout can feel the light before it arrives. He does not move. He does not breathe. The beam crosses the surface 2 inches above his handlebars and continues its rotation, blind to what is sitting right beneath it. The second scout exhales. The lead scout reaches for the wire cutters. His hand does not shake. That is the part worth paying attention to. After 90 days of planning, after 3 months of watching his president rot inside that compound, at the most important moment of the most dangerous night of this club's history, his hand does not shake. He finds the wire. He positions the blade. He looks back once at his brother. They do not exchange words. They do not need to. The line snaps. The Ironhold goes completely, absolutely, brutally dark. For 1/2 of 1 second, there is nothing but silence and blackness, and the distant tick of the garage clock. And then the silence of that garage is torn open from the inside out by the sound of 12 heavy V-twin engines igniting at once, and the Iron Outlaws stop being quiet forever. They hit the throttle together, and the tabletop becomes a different world. The main assault force blasts across the open plywood surface with the kind of speed that makes planning feel irrelevant, pure momentum, pure horsepower, pure commitment. They kick up real dust and real sawdust from the surface beneath their tires, a low cloud of debris that catches what little ambient light filters in through the garage's broken windows. The lead bike does not slow down for the perimeter fence. It does not look for a gap. It hits the outer chain link at full speed, and the fence tears open in a violent burst of sparks that scatter across the tabletop like something celebrating its own destruction. The alarms trip on backup power. Red emergency lights begin to spin inside the compound yard, throwing everything into a rotating crimson glow that makes the miniature concrete blocks look like they are breathing. The yard fills with the sound of engines and the smell of exhaust, and the sight of the Iron Outlaws forming a tight protective circle around the cell block, doors steel and rubber and brotherhood, arranged in the shape of a promise they made 90 days ago and are keeping right now. The cell block door comes open, and Jax walks out. He does not run. Presidents of motorcycle clubs do not run from the things that try to hold them. He walks through that door with his shoulders back and his eyes forward, and he finds the lead chopper already waiting for him with the engine running and a brother holding the bike steady with both hands. He swings onto the back in one motion, his faded leather vest catching the red pulse of the emergency lights, and for one single second, he looks back at the cell block that held him for 3 months. Then he looks forward and never looks back again. But the escape route is already burning. The sheriff did not just respond to the alarm. He had anticipated the alarm. He had been sitting in the dark on the other side of the workbench for 2 hours, waiting for exactly this moment, because a man who builds a prison that good does not leave the back door unguarded. 3 heavy sheriff vehicles are parked bumper to bumper at the far end of the only exit, a narrow, weathered wooden bridge spanning the gap between the workbench and a metal tool cabinet sitting 4 feet away. The bridge is the only path that does not end in a 20-foot drop to the concrete garage floor below, and the sheriff has sealed it completely. No gap, no angle, no way through on the ground. Behind the club, the backup cruisers are closing in, headlights cutting through the red-lit dark of the compound yard, the sheriff's net pulling tight from both directions at once. The Iron Outlaws are caught between a wall of flashing steel on one side and open air on the other, a drop that would end a normal scale model in 1,000 separate pieces on the garage floor far below. The vice president pulls alongside Jax. He does not give a speech. There is no time for a speech. He looks at his president and communicates everything that needs to be said in the space of one breath, the way men who have ridden together long enough can do. There is one option. There has only ever been one option for men like this. You hit the thing that is trying to stop you, or you go over the edge, or you do both at the same time and let the air decide what happens next. Jax does not hesitate. He opens the throttle himself and takes the front of the line, because he is the president, and because he walked out of that cell block tonight and this club is not losing him on the bridge. He does not ask anyone else to go first. He never has. He scans the gap between the blockade and the edge of the workbench, and he finds it, a discarded metal clipboard leaning against the base of the tool cabinet at the far end of the bridge, sitting at an angle that nobody put it at on purpose, left there by someone who had no idea what it was going to mean at 02. 00 in the morning on the worst and best night of the Iron Outlaws' history. A ramp. Accidental, imperfect, aluminum and chance. It is enough. Jax guns the engine until the sound fills the entire garage, bouncing off the old walls and the cluttered shelves and the hanging tools, and he hits the bridge at speed. The wooden planks rattle and flex beneath his 2-inch tires. The sheriff vehicles at the far end hold their position, lights blazing, because whoever is behind those wheels is betting that no miniature motorcycle on a 1-meter tabletop is about to do what Jax is about to do. The front tire finds the edge of the clipboard. The aluminum surface catches the weight of the bike and launches it upward, and for one suspended, impossible, cinematic moment, the miniature chopper is airborne, climbing over the tops of the flashing sheriff vehicles, clearing the blockade completely, hanging in the dim garage air with nothing beneath it but faith and physics and 90 days of everything this club poured into this night. Time does not just slow down. It stops. And then the back tire finds the rubber mat of the tool cabinet on the other side, and the bike lands hard and true, and Jax rides it out without going down, and the Iron Outlaws erupt. One after another, they hit the clipboard ramp at full speed. Some land clean. Some land rough and fight the bike back under control with both hands and everything they have. One brother nearly clips the edge of the tool cabinet and recovers by pure instinct in a fraction of a second that will get told and retold at every table this club sits around for the rest of its history. They pour over that bridge in a wave of steel and exhaust and defiance, leaving 3 sheriff vehicles stranded on a wooden bridge with nowhere to go and no way to follow and nothing to do, but sit there in their own flashing lights, while the men they were supposed to stop disappear into the dark. The Iron Outlaws go deep into the shadows of the garage rafters. One by one, the engines quiet. One by one, the headlights cut out. The garage settles back into something that resembles silence, except silence after something like this is never the same as silence before it. It carries weight now. It carries the memory of what just happened on that tabletop. They made it out. All of them. Jax is free. The president of the Iron Outlaws is back with his club on the other side of the thing that tried to break them, and for a long moment nobody moves and nobody speaks, and nobody needs to. The kind of relief that comes after 90 days of planning and 45 seconds of execution does not announce itself loudly. It sits in the chest like a stone being lifted that you had forgotten you were carrying. But down on the workbench, in the yard of the Ironhold, where the red emergency lights are still slowly spinning over the empty concrete, and the torn fence, and the tire tracks left by 12 bikes that were never supposed to get out. A new light turns on inside the main office. One light, steady, not the spinning red of emergency protocol, a desk lamp, yellow and deliberate. Someone is in that office who was not in that office before, someone who was not running a patrol, someone who has been watching all of this from a position nobody mapped, someone who waited until it was over to let them know he was there. The war for the tabletop has just begun. And this time, the Iron Outlaws do not know what they are walking into.